brighter than the sky.
I changed everyone's pins.
I didn't get this email.
I have to repeat that every time.
I'm gonna walk you guys through this one shot. You guys saw the shot. You guys know what I'm talking about. You saw it, I don't need to explain it. Let's go. I want this to come together out of thin air, like in Fortnite, right? When you build stuff in Fortnite, pieces. What I got here is a noodle wall. So I cloned just a cylinder and made sure it was all to the measurements of the actual foam wall. Once I have my foam wall modeled, group everything into one drop down so I can just work with that one model. First thing, I'm stacking effects. I threw the noodle wall into a fracture object. And in the fracture object, I told it to not just look at the whole thing, but break it up into all the different segments that it's made out of. Next thing, throw that into a random effector. Randomly moves all the objects in your, whatever you put into the randomizer. It randomizes the position, it randomizes the scale and rotation. I'm gonna put the random effector into another effector. That is called the push apart. I don't want to push them apart. I want them to go from nothing and scale up to their final size. The push apart effect actually has a drop down here under mode called scale apart. That's what I'm animating. I'm animating the scale apart and I'm animating the random effector. And that is going to give us the look of this foam wall materializing out of thin air. That's what I love so much about cinema is you have all these cool things in the program that allow you to do a bunch of fun stuff and you get to tweak them in a bunch of fun different ways. That's what it looks like. Built from the outside in. It finishes on the inside. That's the gist of animating the wall. Now we're in a position where I need to put this animation into a shot that is very shaky. I'm not the best with camera tracking. Yo, Wren.
The way camera tracking works is that it actually tracks dozens of points across a shot, figures out how all those points move in relation to each other to figure out a 3D camera moving through space. My problem here is that there's not enough detail, so you add unsharp mask, and I've talked about this in a previous video before. You have to add 3 different layers of unsharp mask. It's a gross looking shot, but it's now ready to track. So that's what I'm gonna do. I exported that as an image sequence, and then I opened up the 3D camera tracking program of choice for me, which is Buju, because that's just the one that we still have. If I track the features, I go to advanced. And sometimes I go to large scale. That seems to track things a little better, but for this I'm gonna go through normal scale. Max search distance to 30, because it's a fast moving shot. Sensitivity, you don't wanna bump up all that high. I'm gonna start. What exactly makes this shot hard to track? There's a lot of noise. And I don't mean like classic noise you'd get on an image sensor. I mean like visual noise in the sense that there's a lot of different things that are hard to differentiate from each other. For instance, the computer struggles with telling the difference between different blades of grass. And so it might be tracking one point and then all of a sudden that tracking point moves to a different spot in the video and you end up with inconsistent gross. And so it ends up giving you a wonky track. And to resolve that, you have to actually go in and manually track points. You want to track stuff that's really far away, stuff that's really close to the camera, stuff that moves throughout the sequence. Especially, the best things you can track are things that have been completely obscured by the camera for some point in time, but then come back before the end of the shot. Because the computer doesn't know the difference between a point here and a point at the end of the shot because it disappeared for a while. But because humans have context and are able to apply that, I know that that point is the same, so I can establish and tell the computer that it's the same. So now that I've gone through, I've added all those manual tracking points, I threw it into the camera solve to figure out the 3D camera, and then it spits out this 3D camera. And so as you can see here, here's all these tracking points. You can see all the points in the distance that are tracking the mountain, the big tree off in the distance here, because we're all right here at the front. And I kicked this out to Cinema 4D, and that's where Clint takes over and actually put the stuff in the scene.
And we are back. So now what we're gonna do is take the animation of that wall and put it into the scene that Wren tracked. You guys can see here, bird's eye view kind of the scene. You can see virtual me running with this camera. All of these yellow lines, what are these yellow lines? That's the fall off for all of these walls. I don't know how to hide those yet. I tried searching on Google, I don't know how. We have 4 copies of the wall lined up next to each other. That's just where they need to be for the shot to make sense for the story. And the seed has been changed for all of these walls. So the same basic animation is happening, but in different ways. You know, it's like if you make a pizza, every pepperoni pizza is not exactly the same. You know, in this case, if I'm like worried that, oh, I don't know if the track was good or not, then I would just render out like a really low res version of this animation and bring it into After Effects and comp it and see if it works. But I don't need to do that because Wren is really good at tracking stuff. So another Grayscale Gorilla plugin, this is Light Kit Pro. It's really cool because it lets you use essentially a sunlight tool. You control the sun inside of Cinema 4D in combination with the HDRI studio rig. I am lighting the scene with an HDRI. A lot of Grayscale Gorilla's stuff is like things that you can do in Cinema 4D, but it would take you like 10 times longer. So they've streamlined it, get you to that final result so much faster. On top of that, I want the shadows from these foam walls to be comped into the final shot. So what I'm gonna do is throw a floor down, and on that floor, I'm using a shadow catcher material. Does exactly that, it catches the shadows. Two things kind of happening in the background. We have Gabe, who is rotoscoping Nico and Wren running through the scene because the fences are gonna be on the right. They're gonna be in front of all these fences. Now, Gabe has to go through, shot, by hand, cut out Wren and Nico. Once this render is done, it goes to Wren for the final pass. Stormfather, and then at that point, Stormfather renders out the very final shot.
Remember, this episode is brought to you by Squarespace, and whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make your next move with Squarespace, just like this security system here. Oh, Clint's coming back from lunch.
What's the passphrase?
The what?
The passphrase.
Passphrase?
Yeah, we got a new, everyone has a passphrase now.
Did you send an email or something?
No.
No. I don't know. I know my code, my passcode, but.
Give me one fact about Squarespace.
Oh, okay. Squarespace.com has award-winning customer service.
Is that 24/7 customer service?
Yes.
Congratulations, Clint. Your passphrase is Squarespace has 24/7 award-winning customer service. You'll need it every time you enter and exit the studio.
Squarespace.com has award-winning customer service?
Yep, 24/7. Don't forget. The only way you can enter is if you tell me a fact about Squarespace.
Squarespace is flexible for any kind of website, whether you're a musician or a designer or an artist or anything like that. You can use Squarespace to easily design your websites.
That's really good, Wren. Don't forget that. You're going to need it to come in the studio from now on, all
I have
right?
to repeat that every time.
I changed everyone's pins too.
Yo, Nico.
What's up, Jake?
Yo, what's the passphrase?
You mean my passcode?
No, that's your pin. What's your passphrase? Everyone has a passphrase now.
I didn't get this email.
Sam.
What? What's up?
What's the passphrase, dude?
I don't know. How about cheese and crackers?
No, I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
It's a Squarespace fact.
Is this like a trick?
No.
How about they have really cool, stylish, easy templates or something, probably?
Squarespace keeps all your code base up to date, so you never have to worry about updating your website for new browsers.
Clearance level 5, you may now enter the studio.
It was, they've got award-winning templates.
Are they beautiful?
Yes.
Do you have work to do?
This is my job, dude. Oh. Hey, Gabe.
Nope.
Hey, what's your passphrase, dude?
Squarespace offers unique domain experience that's fully transparent and simple to set up.
What? I always knew there was something special about that guy.
What? How many bugs do I have? Yeah. I don't know what that means, Carmichael. Now that Clint has built the assets and rendered out the shot, I'm gonna composite it. So remember, these are two different stages of the effects process. You gotta make the elements and then render it out to create it into a real thing. And now I gotta add it to the footage. And it's not just a simple matter of putting it on top of the footage, as we learned in that previous video. What was that previous video? Now the walls move with the camera, that's great, but they're obviously on top of Nico and I, so that doesn't work. We're gonna have to rotoscope Nico and I think Gabe did that. And they don't match the shot. They're too bright, they're too contrast, they're too saturated, and the shadows are way too dark. So I have to somehow separate the shadows, bring those down. This is how I did that. And right off the bat, you can see the shadows are actually built into the shot. I know of a great trick to get rid of it. So check this out. If I add the extract filter, it's kind of like keying out dark stuff or light stuff. If I slide this down, it'll start keying out anything that's bright. And I don't want to key out what's bright, so I'm going to key out what's dark. And just like that, the shadow, because it was like basically straight black, was able to be removed. Numbers, man. So here are my walls. First, I used extract. Poof, got rid of the shadows entirely. That's okay, because I just duplicate that layer later, as you can see here. Add a bit of fast blur, and you want to tint it to the same color of the shadows of the scene. You can add the shadows in, and now the shadows look more normal, and already you can tell a big difference. They look like, apart from the fact that they're on top of Nico, they look like they're sitting just above the ground here. Another thing I added was ambient occlusion. It's proximity darkness. It's not actual shadow, it's more just the absence of light. So here's without ambient occlusion, here's with. Without, with. Without, with. The next thing I added was levels. I also have info panels. So if I click up here, I actually go down to HSB. This is pretty much the #1 tool I use for trying to match renders to a scene. What is the brightest part of our shot? It's the sky here. So just hovering my mouse over the sky, I can see the brightness is set to 93%. If I hover over here at, say, a bright spot right above this blue here, that's sitting at 100% brightness. That means the render is brighter than the sky. That shouldn't be the case. And also the shadows, I'm gonna raise the shadows a little bit, but then I'm also gonna increase the gamma, kind of add some contrast back in. Now on top of that, I added what's called Color Matcher, but it's from Red Giant Keying Suite, which is pretty much the best keying suite out there for After Effects. It has all these really cool effects that allow you to match a green screen element to the background, but it also works great for matching renders to the backgrounds. And then the other effect I use all the time is, which is also from Red Giant, Edge Blur. Edge Blur is fantastic because it just blurs out the edges of an object without blurring the interior of it. This is basically matched to the shot now. Obviously it's underneath Nico and I, so I literally bring out Nico and I. And boom, look at that, we're on top of the world. So this is an actual digital cutout, frame by frame, manual labor of Nico and myself away from the footage. Yeah, and this is pretty decent. Like it blends in nice enough that it looks like it belongs there. It may not be photo perfect, but hey, the shot's 71 frames long, that's 3 seconds? So I get a lot of questions about whether or not color grading should come before or after visual effects are done, and the answer is always after. But once the shot is rendered, there's still one last thing you gotta do, and that's to put that rendered file back into the edit, which is what Clint was super in charge of this whole process as the director. Clint, finish this off.
Guys, I really appreciate your interest in these tutorials and these effects. They take a long time. It took a long time to figure out how to do. It's so much fun though, and it's really fun to share with you guys like how this process works. It means a lot, and I really do appreciate your guys' interest in this kind of stuff. Yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. It's a lot of work. And if you're not subscribed, you should probably subscribe.
Gonna give Jake a little piece of his own security medicine here. He just walked out for a phone call, and I locked the door on him. Nuh-uh.
Who's that?
You're not above the law. You gotta give me that Squarespace fact.
You can get 10% off your first purchase by going to squarespace.com/corridorcrew.
Checks out.
That's what I thought.
Welcome back.
I think I'd forget.